All right, well, let's get started. Hi, and welcome everybody. Thanks so much for taking some time out of your schedules. I know with the state of the world, I'm sure been very busy for a lot of you. So again, we really appreciate you coming out here and talking with us and listen to what we have to say today about making the most of pins within AkitaBox. So without further ado, let's just keep on going. A couple of housekeeping items. This will be a recorded webinar. We will be sending that out at the end of this webinar for your reference, as well as some additional information in that email and a survey that we hope you'll take. So today what we're going to be covering is basically looking at the idea of pins, what they are, how we can configure them, looking at some best case scenarios and use case scenarios for what other organizations and customers have used for these pins. Give a quick rough and dirty sort of training about where those pins are located and a kind of a walkthrough of how to do that. Then hopefully have some time for some questions and answers at the end of the webinar. Throughout the course of the webinar, at the bottom of your screen or somewhere within your Zoom interface, you do have the ability to type in questions. Feel free to type those in. We will get to them as best we can to cover as much as we can at the end of the webinar itself. Those questions will be fed into our co-moderators, Tamissa and Jessica. You're listening right now to me, Patrick Nottingham. I'm the Customer Success Team Lead here at AkitaBox. Tamissa is one of our product owners, and Jessica is one of our customer support coordinators. So we're excited to get rolling with pins, and they'll be able to take your questions. And if it's something that we can answer individually for you, they'll be able to handle that. If it's something that is for the whole group, we'll be able to address that at the end of the webinar as well. So when we get talking about pins, the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna send out just a real quick, like a single question poll. Just a very easy question about what's your current experience with pins and PlanView and AkitaBox. And if that sounds like gibberish to you, then the first option of I know very little about them is probably your bet. But take a couple of quick seconds and go ahead and fill that out. Give us a sense of where we are, who we're talking with, and what we can kind of cover today. Awesome, we'll leave that open for another few more seconds or so. All right, got a few more, so just give a couple more seconds if anyone wants to answer that. All right. Awesome, so it looks like within our poll, we have about 43% of the group knows very little about them. Great, you're in the right spot. We're going to cover that real well today, and then obviously with your customer success manager that you work with, they can have a lot further in-depth conversation with you about the specific strategies for your organization and teams. Didn't know they could be customized. That's good. That means we're doing something right with our training. No one answered that, 0%. I knew I could customize them, but I'm here to learn more. That is 48%. That's the overwhelming majority, and that is awesome. That's exactly what we're going to talk about and get into some of the higher end strategies and things we can think about with pins. And then 9%, my organization uses pin customization regularly. Awesome. That is something that we'll try to get as much information as we can for you for this. And then obviously with your customer success manager, we can get even deeper into kind of how you work with those pins themselves. All right, so I'm gonna get rid of that poll. As we're going through the webinar, I want you to think about a couple of these kind of key questions that we're gonna have. These are not something that you need to answer to us right now. This is something that you can think about, sort of ruminate on, have a bit of a ponder, but the things that we wanna sort of prime your brain about when we're talking strategy with pins, one is, do you currently have all the assets for your organization that your team interacts with or references in their day-to-day operations? Now, we all know AkitaBox does a standard implementation. We get a wealth of information within your systems for you. But beyond that, is that everything you need? Is there something that you're like, man, I wish I had X, Y, or Z, and I don't have that right now, and it's a shame that I don't. that's one of those things that feel free to jot down, and maybe that's a conversation that we can have later with how to get those in for you. Another prong is there a workflow that could be enhanced with improved pin configuration for you or your teams? So obviously we know the pins have some basic default information in there. For a lot of people, that's all we need. For some people, there's a little bit more fine tuning, a little bit more strategy with a specific workflow or a specific thing that they're trying to hit with those pins. And that can be captured within the pin configuration themselves. So let's think a little bit about any sort of strategies or workflows that do pop up that might be improved with pin configuration. Lastly, are there any other departments within your organization that could benefit from the ease of use in referencing and customizing pins? I know the vast majority of the people in the room today are going to be facilities and maintenance operations departments and divisions, and that's fantastic. Obviously, we work with the facility management side of things, but we do have customers that work with a variety of other stakeholders within their organization to really empower and sort of cross-collaborate within the AkitaBox platform. So that's something to think about. If you're already doing that, fantastic. If not, you kind of think a little bit, and we'll talk more about that in the webinar about some other organizations that could benefit or help with a bit of teamwork and conversation. So we're going to quickly go through pin anatomy. This is going to be a pretty high-level overview, kind of a review for a lot of people who, especially who use pins currently right now. What we're looking at is, when I say pin, we're looking at something that is a piece that visually organizes and identifies that asset and their location within plan view. Now, plan view is when we have that map of our floor plans of our buildings up, and we have that nice, colorful sort of pin salad of all the various things located across our building. Each pin family is considered a pin type. When I say family or pin type, we're looking at kind of mechanical, electrical, rooms, the things that we kind of go through during onboarding and training when you first get involved with AkitaBox. Basically, those broad categories of pins. And then each of those pin types has their own data fields, and that's where that detailed information is contained. So for example, the mechanical pin obviously allows areas for things like model, manufacturer, serial number, that kind of information. Those pin types and those data fields exist at the building level, which means you can have different pins and different data fields within other buildings across the organization. So again, just a real quick brief preview. This is plan view, so we have that building floor plan in front of us. Over here is all of our pin types. So again, the pin family. The parenthetical letting us know how many number of quantities in that type. So you have a room, 157 rooms, and so on and so forth for those pin types of that quantity. We can also get a little bit better breakdown of this situation. So we have our pin type, says it's a mechanical pin. We're looking at a specific pin right now, and that shows us where we have more data fields, as I mentioned, these subcategories of more narrowed down information. Also where that pin is visually displayed on that plan view, and then a way to access list view. Remember, we have kind of those two areas of the platform that we can access. The list view, which has the ability to kind of export those spreadsheets and get that broad sense of searchable filters, things like that. And then plan view, which is more that visual representation of our organizations. So let's talk real quick about customization then. The things you can customize. Within pin types, you can create entirely brand new pin types, or you can customize within existing pins. So if I wanted to tweak something within mechanical, I can do that. If I wanted to create something entirely separate from mechanical, I can do that. You can also customize pin colors and symbols. So just because when you get AkitaBox, the mechanical symbol is green, doesn't mean it has to stay green, and doesn't mean that it can only be green. You can get multiple colors, and we'll talk more about that within a specific pin type as well. You can also do symbols, so you can drive specific use cases or needs out of what you're looking for with those pins. And then from there, you can also look at the data fields themselves. Like I said, you get default data fields when you first create a pin, or typically when our implementation team first creates a pin for you guys. However, those can be absolutely configurable. You can change the hierarchy of where they show up in the list of information. You can change what they are. You can change what you capture, and you can change the type of information you're looking for, whether you want just a text, a date, a hyperlink to something on the internet, attachments, and so on and so forth. People who can customize. Currently, our ability to customize is something that we need to access settings for. So that's going to be our administrator permission group that can go through the dashboard into settings. Now, if you have people on your team that need to customize that aren't necessarily administrators, that's definitely something you can have an internal team figure out, whether it's a short-term need for someone that has that administrator permission, or maybe funnel up the chain of command to have that administrator cover the changes need to happen. But currently, that administrator permission can handle accessing the settings and getting into the pin customization. So now we're going to talk a little bit about use cases. These are existing customer breakdowns of how they've used the use cases. Obviously, we've had permission and anonymity supportive both to use their information and keep exactly who they are protected, but they are real-time in the wild happening for us. So let's take a look at one being grounds. This looks like a very crazy hodgepodge of stuff. And it can absolutely be that sometimes. For any of us that works with a large exterior component of land, we know it can be kind of overwhelming sometimes. But if we want to start drilling down more information about whether it's capital planning budgets for improvements to our exterior, or whether it's storage, or where it's lines of irrigation or various sprinkler systems, I'll just kind of show briefly a couple of these as we go through. This is an image, but you can sort of see there's electric line crossings, there's asphalt sections of various parking lots. You have locations of electrical assets. You have cutoffs for cutoffs and shutoffs for utilities. So think about anything that's in the exterior. AkitaBox really does a fantastic job when you first get that product of covering a lot of the internal workings of your building. But that next piece could easily be that external component and what's on the external side of your buildings, the exterior. Something like this can be as simple as either having a drone cover some aerial photography and putting that in as a PDF, or just having a Google image covered and thrown into your floor plan. Again, you can talk with a CSM about how to necessarily configure that, but this is a way that you can cover a ton of information related to each of your exterior positions. And remember, each of these pins can have their own customized data fields as well. So if I'm looking at the asphalt section, I can know, maybe the previous vendor, or maybe information about spaces or occupancy or last resurfaced. There's tons of information related to what can be done in the data fields of these as well. Another use case would be kind of fleet and seasonal equipment. There's a few customers out there that use AkitaBox for not just this is what is in our buildings for things we have to work on, but also this is what we have in our buildings for that we work with, right? So our equipment related to snow plows or chainsaws, our licensed and non-licensed vehicles. Again, within each of these, you can sort of see over here that you have 3 different headings or subheadings, and each of those have, again, their own set of data fields. You're looking at the icons, the individual and organization who placed these, put them in a nice, easy flow setup so they can activate them all and look right down the list and access them easily as needed. You can tell right now it has their seasonal, their landscaping, and their licensed vehicle fleet. Within the data fields of those specific pieces, they've had things like VIN number, registration, plate number, color, occupancy, fleet use, various accessory components, like what types of oil or gas or belts or chains or tires are associated with those things. And that just sort of helps get a better picture for if we're doing any work orders on those specific pieces of equipment themselves, or if they're checked out, or if we need to be able to reference them quickly for whatever need that comes up. The last use case is going to be kind of a cross-departmental collaboration. Like I said in that first sort of consider this slide, what sorts of departments have you worked with and or can work with in order to really benefit and bolster that shared use of AkitaBox being that single source of truth for your organizations? This customer used IT department, and basically they had the IT department go through and load up all kinds of information related to their buildings. They had access points, AV, cash drawers, computers, dock cams. You can see the list goes on. And they were able to put that in under their own headings. They chose a singular color. Again, this is a strategy between the 2 departments. They chose a singular color to make sure that it was drawn out and easy for IT to see, and keeping it separate from other departments. That can be what you choose. That can be something different from what you choose based off how you configure it. But that was their choice for this specific breakdown. Again, within each of those subcategories of assets, they had their own data fields that had a lot of extra power provided to those pins, such as IP addresses, part numbers, purchasers and budget records, active URLs to monitoring of security systems, all kinds of things available to allow them to access on the fly some really readily needed information for both IT and facilities. Again, every department or every organization is sort of made up a little bit differently. And so IT might be one department to think about, but some departments or some organizations may have environmental health and safety or risk management, event planning, logistics, purchasing, compliance. There's tons more within the scope of organization that you may be able to touch base with and collaborate with and getting assets in there for that shared source of truth. I'm now going to jump into the walkthrough of the pin customization. So we're going to go hop into AkitaBox briefly. All right. So in AkitaBox, you can access the pin customization ability through our settings. So again, I'm in the dashboard of my organization, and I can access by clicking on settings. That's going to take me into that back side where I have all of the normal administrative pieces, with users, permission groups, things like that. But I'll be looking at that room and asset types. That'll take me into the building I want to look at. From there, I can select it, and it'll take me into the headings and subheadings available to customize. Now from this page, we can easily look at various information. These are all the pins I have in that building. I can start to already add a brand new pin itself. So again, we talk pin types, pin families. I can add a brand new pin type. Again, name, description. I can change that icon from black to white. I can change the background color to a variety of colors. And I have a whole plethora of already pre-made icons available to look at and consider based off what I'm trying to do. From there, I also have the ability to, like I said, customize within the pins. So if we look at, let's say, electrical, within electrical, that gives us the dropdown of all the data fields that we'll see in plan view and list view for the electrical assets. Now, obviously, these are blank in here because it's the large administrative subheading of what you can fill in. But if I need to change electrical itself for this whole building, I can change the name itself. I can edit it and I can have a description changed. So if I need to repurpose a pin for whatever reason, I can do that. If I need to change out the icon for whatever reason, I can do that as well. If I need to change the color of the icon. Now this is where we can start talking about various colors of same pins. Right now I have the option of one color for all electrical pins, which means by and large, everything's going to be orange. I can also change that to the type of pin, where now we're looking at various colors related to various pieces of my electrical portfolio. Now, you only saw two options in here for the ability to change things. That's because when we're looking in the pins themselves, anything that's a drop-down menu can become a customized color approach. What I mean by that is if I go down here to add a new data field, in that new data field, I can say whatever I want. It'll be a test field. And I want that to be a drop-down list. You can see here right now we have text, paragraph, whole numbers, decimal numbers, yes, no, so binary, drop-downs, dates, URLs, all kinds of stuff that we can choose. Say I wanted to choose a drop-down list. I save that, that'll populate within here. Now over on this side, whenever I click on it, I can edit the information in here. So I can look at my acceptable values. I can say new, I can say old, I can say replaced. I'm just making up words right now, but it's one of those things that can give you a sense of the options, and I can save that. Now, if I wanted to go into this color, I can hop in, and I have a new ability to set the color based of the value of test, my test field. I have new, old, replace, and I can change those colors. So imagine anything that you need for various color components related to a parent pin setup. Within here, I can also change the hierarchy of pins. If I want to move the type lower or higher, respectively, I can do that. If I need to edit anything related to type, I can also click on this edit feature, and that'll take me to the edit data field submenu on this side. Again, I can make any changes I need. I can add additional information. I can create default values. I can hide it from the list. I can make it editable. I can put it in my spreadsheet when I download it or not. And then at the end of the day, I can either delete it or save it. Again, any work you do in here, obviously you want to save so it funnels through to to what you're trying to do. But again, that's just a quick background snapshot of some of the options within here. I'm going to go back to our PowerPoint. And I know I've gone very quickly through a lot of stuff. Again, CSMs are absolutely available to talk more higher level strategy. We have a few more minutes left. I want to make sure we have time for some good moderated questions that come up. So let's see here. So Tamissa, would you have any questions for us?
Yes, I do, Patrick. I have a couple that have come in, and we are definitely taking questions for as long as you have them. So if you have questions that haven't been answered right now, or you want to add your own or have follow-ups, at the very bottom of the screen for Zoom, on the right, there is a Q&A icon. That is where you can answer or ask your questions to us. I am going to be able to answer this first question from an anonymous attendee. If you have further questions for us, Anonymous, you can let us know so we can reach out to you and with your CSM directly. But you had asked if there is a way to customize a pin with your own icon. Currently at this time, we do not have that much functionality and customization. But because you did ask about this, we will be putting that into our ideas section for the product to make sure that we do take down your idea and consider that as a future improvement for our software. Thank you for that question. Okay, I have another question coming from another attendee asking if we will ever be able to add, delete, or edit pins in every building all at once. We've definitely heard this from a lot of you in the past and now about being able to take action on multiple assets in rooms at the same time, even if they are not in the same building. This is something that we are considering to work on in the near future. And hopefully we have some information on a potential timeline for that for you if you reach back out to your customer success manager.
I also see a question over here for events were mentioned. What kind of events and how does it work? That's a great question. So when I was referring to events, I was referring to an events department to maybe cross-collaborate with asset information within AkitaBox. Ways that could work is I have a customer who basically within their room pins, they have data fields related to what type of events can be held in there, what type of occupancy, what type of setup or loadout that room can have, whether it's a conference center or a projector, that kind of information. And they can have that as view only and or editable depending on their decisions and shareable to the events team to make those kind of decisions when they're looking at how to schedule or plan different functions within their organization. All right. Any other questions for right now for anybody? Excellent. Well, like I said, we have our contact information here again. Please always feel free to contact myself or Jess. We have both those contact informations up there for any other further questions you have. Also, if you want to reach out to your specific CSM, if you have a specific strategy or an idea that sort of this meeting kind of primed the pump, you're like, oh, I'm excited for this thing. Definitely reach out to either myself or your CSM and we can get rolling on talking about how to make the best of that for you. Couple of quick reminders. At the end of this webinar, we're going to be having an email that goes out. That email is going to contain the recording of this webinar, so you can share that and distribute to whoever you'd like for reference. It's also going to have some links to our Learning Center articles that gives you a little bit more in-depth approach. I know I went very quickly through the backside of the customization. That Learning Center is going to have some really great articles about a slower process of looking at all of what we need to do for pin customization. And then last but not least, we're going to have a survey within the email as well. These surveys are critical. They're crucial for us. We love them, so please take the time to answer them if you can. It gives us a sense specifically of how to make the better webinars, what things you guys are looking for, ideas for both product and engagement improvements. We always want to make sure that we have the best information to you to both empower and make your team succeed and have an easier life for everybody within AkitaBox. So please take some time for that. That'd be really beneficial for us. It's been an absolute pleasure. I know I can speak for Tamissa and Jessica, myself, to say it's been an absolute pleasure to present to you today. We're very much looking forward to any other further questions you have and continue working with you during these wild and crazy times while we're all busy with a variety of things. But please don't hesitate to ever reach out. And thank you so much for attending today.